There are moments, aren't there, when it feels as though time is just, well, like a current pulling us relentlessly along.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself looking back in, the bends in the river we've passed, or maybe straining to see what's around the next corner.
Mm-hmm.
And the water right here, right now,
Mm-hmm.
it can feel elusive sometimes. What settles in you when you consider this constant flow?
Well, imagine placing your hand in that flowing water.
Okay.
Can you hold on to any single drop? It just arrives, touches you for a moment, and then continues its journey, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And yet, isn't the entire river somehow present in every single one of those drops? The past shaped it, sure, the future is its potential, but the real experience,
Yeah.
that's only in this instant of contact.
That's a beautiful way to see it. It's just that my mind often feels less like a still pool reflecting the sky and more like
Yeah.
like a very busy marketplace,
I understand.
full of clamoring thoughts and worries, all jostling for attention. It makes it so difficult to simply be present in the midst of all that. Do you have any thoughts on finding stillness in that internal activity?
Perhaps the key isn't really about trying to silence the marketplace entirely,
Okay.
but maybe more about gently stepping aside, almost, and observing its activity without getting swept away by every transaction. The breath, for instance. It's always here, isn't it? A kind of anchor in the present moment, a constant companion right there amidst the noise.
That brings to mind a story, just a simple one, about a young monk.
Hmm.
He was really struggling, apparently, with his mind racing during meditation. Just felt like he was failing.
Mm-hmm. That struggle itself is often part of the journey, isn't it? So imagine this young person maybe being offered, say, a single wildflower.
Yes, exactly. That's the one. His teacher simply invited him to hold it, to really engage with it, the feel of the stem, the softness of the petals, maybe the subtle fragrance,
Mm-hmm.
just paying attention. And in that focused attention, something shifted. The mental chatter it quieted down.
Right.
Not through forcing it, but through this gentle absorption in the sensory experience. For that moment, he was just there with the flower.
It's fascinating how this resonates even now. I remember reading somewhere, I think it was suggesting engaging our senses like that can actually redirect those worry pathways in the brain.
Indeed. And this principle, it's not confined to monasteries, is it?
Yeah.
Think about someone today, maybe someone overwhelmed by a demanding career.
Right. Constant emails, back-to-back meetings.
Exactly. Someone like, let's call her Sarah, feeling completely consumed by that cycle of pressure, always striving, never quite feeling like she had a moment to just breathe.
Yeah, I can picture that.
And perhaps in the middle of that relentless pace, she makes a conscious choice. During her lunch break, finds a quiet spot, maybe, and just focuses on eating. Not scrolling through her phone, not planning her next meeting, but truly noticing the flavors, the textures, the simple act of nourishing her body.
Just for a few minutes, maybe. It might only be 10 minutes. But like some of the research suggests, even these short periods of focused sensory engagement can significantly dial down the body's stress response.
And she probably found that those few minutes created a kind of ripple effect through her day.
Precisely.
Returning to work calmer, maybe more centered, better able to handle the challenges. It really highlights what those ancient texts sometimes call sati, right? This sort of unbroken awareness of the present.
Yes, sati. It's not about emptying the mind, which is a common misconception.
Yeah.
It's more about observing what arises, thoughts, emotions, physical sensations, with a gentle kind of curiosity, like watching clouds drift across the sky, perhaps, without judging them.
Like watching clouds, I like that. This non-judgmental observation, you're saying that's key.
Absolutely. Often our struggles come not so much from the thoughts or feelings themselves, but from our resistance to them, labeling them good or bad. And that resistance, as some studies show, can actually amplify difficult emotions. So the question becomes, how do we begin to cultivate this satya, this mindfulness?
Yeah, how do we start?
Well, the path unfolds in several ways. Sometimes people talk about 4 foundations of mindfulness. The first is simply the body, our physical presence right here.
The body.
Yes, the tangible experience of being alive in this moment, noticing the breath as it enters and leaves, feeling the sensations in your hands perhaps, or your feet resting on the floor.
Things we usually ignore.
Exactly. We overlook these constant signals. And interestingly, even a few moments of just focusing on body awareness can often reduce anxiety levels, sometimes more effectively than trying to argue with anxious thoughts.
Mindfulness of the body. I have to admit, my tendency is often to live from the neck up, so to speak.
Many of us do.
I get so caught up in thoughts that I completely miss what my body's telling me. What's the next foundation then?
The second is our feelings, our emotional landscape.
Ah, emotions.
Joy, sorrow, anger, peace. They all arise and pass, don't they? The practice here is to acknowledge these feelings as they surface, without judgment, without necessarily getting tangled up in the stories behind them.
That makes sense, but
Yeah.
what about when those feelings are really intense, overwhelming? How do we observe something like anger without it just taking over?
That's a really important question. Think of it perhaps like observing a storm from a safe distance. If you
Right.
see the lightning, you hear the thunder, you feel the intensity in the air, but you remain sheltered. You're not in the storm itself. Similarly, we can learn to observe difficult emotions as energy moving through us. Recognizing their impermanent nature, they won't last forever without needing to immediately act on every impulse they create. Research on emotional regulation actually backs this up. Mindful awareness creates a little space.
A space between the feeling and our reaction.
Yeah, exactly. A pause. What about the third foundation?
Yes.
The third is the mind itself, the stream of our thoughts.
Okay, looking at the thoughts.
Yes, what's the quality of our inner dialogue? Is it critical, worried, constantly planning, or maybe calm? Just noticing these patterns like a detached observer helps us understand our habitual ways of thinking. And that awareness, as you noted earlier, can be the very first step in breaking free from unhelpful thought cycles that just loop around and around.
So it's like becoming aware of the script that's constantly running in the background.
Okay.
And the fourth foundation.
The fourth is sometimes called mindfulness of phenomena. Basically, the world around us and how we perceive it.
Phenomena. How does that work?
It invites us to consider how external factors, our environment, our relationships, our experiences, shape our inner world. It's about seeing the interconnectedness of things.
Okay. Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about how maybe the constant pinging of notifications on your phone, that's an external phenomenon, might immediately trigger a feeling of needing to check it, a slight anxiety perhaps. That's your inner state reacting.
Ah, right. Happens all the time.
Mindfulness of phenomena helps you recognize that connection and maybe create a little space around that automatic response. You notice the ping, notice the urge, but maybe you don't have to react instantly.
That's a powerful insight into how our internal state gets so tangled up with the external world. So, okay, these foundations are great, but what are some really practical ways we can start to cultivate this presence in our daily lives, like right now?
Well, one very accessible practice is simply bringing your full attention to your breath, just for a few moments, several times a day perhaps.
Just breathing.
Just noticing the sensation of the inhale and the exhale.
Yeah.
When your mind wanders off, which it absolutely will,
Well.
just gently guide your attention back. No criticism needed, just guide it back to the breath.
That does sound manageable. Sometimes the idea of formal meditation feels like this big commitment, But just focusing on the breath for a moment, I can see how I could weave that into my day.
Right.
What else? What other techniques might be helpful?
Another gentle practice is a body scan.
Body scan.
Yes. Slowly bring your awareness to different parts of your body, maybe starting from your toes and moving up. Just noticing any sensations, warmth, coolness, tingling, tightness, without any judgment, without needing to change anything, just noticing. This can be incredibly grounding, and it really increases your awareness of where you might be holding tension you didn't even know was there.
I can imagine that being helpful.
Yeah.
I know I often carry stress in my shoulders and, like you said, don't even realize it until it's actually uncomfortable. And you mentioned mindful walking earlier.
Yes. Even something as ordinary as walking can become a form of meditation.
How so?
Just pay attention to the physical sensations of walking, the movement of your legs, the feeling of your feet connecting with the ground, the air on your skin. Notice the sights and sounds and maybe even smells around you. Engage all your senses in the present moment of walking.
It's like intentionally waking up during those everyday activities we usually just rush through on autopilot.
Exactly. So how do we take these little moments of practice and really integrate them into the flow of a busy life? That's the next step, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the challenge.
It's about finding small opportunities, really, little anchor points. Before you answer the phone or maybe hit send on an email, just take one conscious breath.
Okay.
When you're eating, try putting aside distractions, the phone, the TV, and just truly savor the taste and texture of your food for a few bites. When someone is speaking to you, really listen. Give them your undivided attention, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
That's a big one.
It is. Even maybe taking a few moments for gratitude before sleep can anchor you back in the present and appreciate what you have right now.
It sounds like creating these little islands of presence in the stream of our day. You spoke earlier about a ripple effect of presence. Could you say a bit more about that?
When we cultivate that inner calm and awareness, it tends to radiate outward naturally in how we interact with others. Think about being in the presence of someone who is genuinely grounded and attentive. Their very demeanor can be calming, can't it? It can create a more focused, more peaceful atmosphere around them.
Yeah, you feel it.
As some of the wisdom figures we looked at exemplified, that kind of inner peace can actually be a quiet catalyst for positive change in the world around us. It affects people.
That's it. Yeah, that's a powerful image. It really makes me think about how my own, sometimes scattered energy might be impacting the people around me.
And this naturally leads us towards the idea of letting go, of non-attachment.
Letting go.
It's about gently releasing our tight grip on how things should be, our rigid expectations, and opening ourselves up more to the reality of what is actually unfolding moment by moment.
Letting go. That feels like one of the hardest things to do, though, especially when we have really strong desires or we're facing really difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
It sounds passive, almost.
It can feel that way, but consider the alternative. Clinging tightly to things that are inherently impermanent situations, outcomes, even feelings, often just creates more suffering in the long run. There's an old story, maybe you know it, about a farmer. Lost his entire harvest due to unexpected weather. Terrible blow.
Yeah, devastating.
And his initial reaction was, understandably, despair. But eventually he found a measure of peace, not by denying the loss, but by accepting it and starting to focus on the possibility of planting anew next season. Resisting what is often just amplifies our pain, as psychological studies also suggest. It doesn't change the reality, it just makes us suffer more about it.
That's a powerful perspective. Accepting the reality, even if it's painful, allows for moving forward. It makes me wonder, how might cultivating this kind of presence, this acceptance, also unlock creativity? Or maybe help with problem solving?
That's a great connection. When our minds are less cluttered with past regrets or future anxieties and more focused on the present task or situation, well, we create space for new insights to arise. That deep state of absorption you can get into when you're fully engaged in something, sometimes people call it flow, allows for a different kind of thinking. A deeper level of engagement that can absolutely lead to innovative solutions or creative breakthroughs. Think of inventors or artists who achieve amazing things through that unwavering dedication and intense focus on their work in the moment.
So that intense concentration isn't just about being productive then, it's also about fostering that innovative spark.
Very much so.
And what about the bigger picture, the broader societal implications? You touched on leaders. What is the impact of, say, collective presence?
Well, leaders who embody presence, who seem calm, centered, truly listening, they tend to inspire greater trust. They foster deeper connections with the people they lead.
You feel like you can rely on them more.
Exactly. Their ability to remain calm and focused, especially amidst chaos or uncertainty, can create a sense of stability and clarity that really benefits the entire group or organization. Inner peace, as demonstrated by truly influential figures throughout history, can indeed be a foundation for wider positive change. It starts within.
This has given me so much to consider, honestly. I feel a renewed sense of motivation to try and cultivate more presence in my own life. For listeners who are feeling the same way, what are some final practical suggestions? Where should someone start who wants to embark on this journey?
I'd say begin gently, really gently. Start with just small moments of awareness throughout your day. Don't aim for perfection.
Okay, small moments.
Create simple rituals maybe, like
Yeah.
that mindful breath before checking email or savoring the first sip of morning coffee. Use sensory details, sights, sounds, physical feelings as anchors to bring you back when the mind wanders.
And be kind to yourself when it does wander.
Absolutely. Be patient and kind to yourself. The mind will wander. That's what minds do. Just gently guide it back again and again. And if possible, maybe connect with others who are also exploring these practices. A shared intention, a community, even a small one, can be a wonderful support.
Start small, create rituals, use anchors, self-compassion, community. That sounds manageable. It truly feels like the real richness of life isn't necessarily about chasing future goals or dwelling too much on the past, but about really fully experiencing the moments we are given right here and now.
Precisely. And often it's right there in that present moment that we find a deeper sense of gratitude just for the simple gift of being alive.
Thank you. I'm leaving this conversation with a greater sense of calm, actually, and definitely a renewed appreciation for the present.
My pleasure.
And maybe for you, the listener, perhaps consider this.
Yeah.
Each breath you take is a new beginning. It's an invitation, really, to awaken to the fullness of this very moment.